Hello everyone, my name is Margriet and today I have a lesson prepared for you guys about the cultural iceberg. And as it is stated below, we're actually going to start with our own culture because your own culture and knowing about your own culture is often a very important step in trying to actually understand other cultures and dealing with other cultures. So the lesson goals for this lesson are as follows. You understand and you can give examples of cultural stereotypes. You can explain the theory of the cultural iceberg, and you can create a cultural iceberg based on your own culture. And that can be any culture that you truly identify with. It doesn't have to be the culture from the country that you live in, for example. So, with regards to cultural stereotypes, I would like you guys to take a moment to think about possible images that a person might have in their heads when someone asks them, so what do you think of Holland? Or what do you think of the Netherlands? What are some of the images, ideas, or things that come to mind when you think of that country? So think about that for a little while for yourselves. So often when I do this exercise, students and also adults actually often come up with the same types of answers. So the idea of the clogs, the tulips, but also the idea of prostitution and the fact that smoking weed is legalized here. So coffee shops, you often get sort of the same image that people have in their minds, like the things that they think of when they hear the Netherlands. And a lot of the times it seems to sort of boil down to, well, this image over here. So with the bicycles and the Heineken, the clocks, the tulips, the drugs that we see in there. And apparently that is at least the first image that a lot of people have of, well, which is my country, the Netherlands. And the thing with that is if I look at this, I always feel that there's more to my country. Even though I also feel that there's some truth into this, it's not complete nonsense, but it seems like the image that's only Amsterdam, and even for Amsterdam, it seems very limited. So that's an example of cultural stereotypes. It's the idea of looking at a country in a way that you pretend that everyone there is the same and the entire country is like that. And another thing about stereotypes is that often they can actually be quite negative or harmful rather than positive, such as we're really good with water management, but we don't really see that in our idea of stereotypes of a country. Now take another couple seconds for yourself and try to imagine how you would view a comparable image, but then based on the USA. What might that look like? If you try and have a look at the image that you see right now, what might that look like if you would want to create it for the United States of America? Obviously, I have one of those images. Maybe this is sort of the idea that you also had in mind. So we have the idea of the guns, the idea of obesity, national pride. Everything is, king sized or supersized, even the person itself. Um, and again, there's the question of, so how would this make someone who actually lives in the USA feel? Some might say, I don't care. I know that it's just a stereotype. I know that's how people may view my country, and I know better than that. I don't really care that this happens. But to some, it can definitely be considered hurtful. That if you would have a conversation with someone and you say that you are from the United States, or in my case, from the Netherlands, that people automatically have these ideas in their minds. And often these ideas actually come forward through the media, for example. And it can give a quite one sided perception of reality, which can be difficult for people. So even though stereotypes, it's not as if they're not based on anything. You should just always keep in mind that the way you view a country might be based on a cultural stereotype because you don't know all the people that live there. As long as you keep that in mind, it's okay that stereotypes may exist. You just have to know that there's way more to it. And it's a very limited way to view a country. So let's turn to the theory of the cultural iceberg. Um, you probably all know what an iceberg looks like, something along the lines of this. And of course, the iceberg is used as a metaphor for many different things and also for culture. And it has everything to do with what you see isn't all that there is to it. So you may see this tiny little part of a culture and think that, hey, that's it. That's simply how it works. This is how these people are, and that's the truth. But actually, as with a lot of things, a big part of culture is actually what you cannot see. So what we often like to say is that that top part of culture is pretty much the things of a culture that you would get to know and see and experience in maybe being in a country for a week or so. So being there on a holiday, what are those things that you will immediately see? And those can be things such as eating habits, the way that people dress, maybe how they celebrate, do they haggle or do they not? Are they really polite or are they more direct? How do they deal with time? Is everyone always on time or does everyone, in your perception, always seem to be late? Um, so those are all the things that you might find in that top layer of the iceberg. But the theory of the cultural iceberg is that you have to try and start thinking about what's actually underneath. Why might they be lenient with time, for example? Or why might they dress this way? How can we explain that? Like, why are some cultures more used to covering up and others are not? Rather than just taking what you see is what you get, try to at least know that there's something going on below. So an example of this for my own country, so someone coming to the Netherlands, being here for, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 weeks, they might experience this. So we don't have any mountains. That might be something that you see immediately. We have a prime minister who's famous for riding his bicycle to work, and we are considered to be quite direct or blunt, if you will. Um, and if that's what you see and you think that's what you get, I think you're actually missing part of the picture because it comes from somewhere. The fact that our prime minister likes to ride his bicycle to work has everything to do with what's underneath. So, our norms and our values, the part of the iceberg that you can't just see, but you'll sort of have to be here for a year or 2 years to try and really understand, like, that bottom layer of the iceberg. We really value equality overall. And that's why we like it when our prime minister takes a bicycle. He's just like us. We care about that. Same thing with the directness or the bluntness. We care about being clear and honest or, saying it as it is. So there's always something going on below the surface. And I'm not trying to say that you should get to know that bottom side of the iceberg for every culture or every person that you ever encounter, because you don't have time for that. There's no way you could do that. But just knowing that there's a reason for it, and knowing that when a Dutch person speaks to you and he may feel like you may feel attacked by him or her, just knowing that there might be something behind it, that might be a reason why someone does it, can help you to deal with those situations and understand them better. So what I'd like you to do is see if you can either finish like this cultural iceberg for the Netherlands, but you can also pick a completely different culture that you'd like to make a cultural iceberg about. And this final picture can help you with that. So you can see the surface culture, the things that you will get to know really quickly. You just get off the airplane and you already see many things going on. What are those things that people might immediately see of your culture? But then also really start to think about the deep culture. What are their norms and values? What's the concept of time? How do people approach people that are older or younger, marriage, religion? So all those things that are happening below. So please make the cultural iceberg of your culture as an assignment for this week. And you can just leave the clip on this image so you can see all these different examples of elements of the cultural iceberg. Good luck with your assignments and thank you for watching.